but that's very becoming on you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Wait. Okay, we're ready.
Okay, call to order. Is everybody on with us, Alba?
Let me do the roll call.
Thank
Councilmember
you.
Leonard,
Here.
Councilmember Reed,
Here.
Councilmember Salver,
Here.
Councilmember Tricoche,
Here.
Councilmember Yaffe,
Here.
Vice Mayor Fuller,
Here.
Mayor Bruder.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Order. Here. Is everybody on with us, Alba?
Wait. Let me do the roll call.
Thank you.
Councilmember Leonard. Uh-oh.
Still here.
We're all still here.
We're getting feedback. I'm sorry, guys.
How much did we budget for IT?
Okay.
Not enough.
Budget?
I'm just glad to know that I'm not losing my marbles.
Order. Is everybody on with us, Alba?
At least not any more than the rest of us, Isaac.
Because I'm hearing things twice.
I thought I heard it say, "You've got mail."
Give me just a second, guys.
How's your brother-in-law, Isaac?
That I'm not losing my marbles. He's thank God getting stronger every day.
More than the rest of us.
He had dinner with us. He had dinner and lunch with us over.
Oh.
I'm hearing things twice. He's doing much better. Thank you for asking. Very kind of you.
Mail.
Give me just a second, guys. Okay, go ahead. We're getting feedback. We're having issues with our software.
How's your brother-in-law, Isaac? Why? And you're, yeah.
Had dinner and lunch with us over.
Oh.
I'm hearing things twice. He's doing much better. Thank you for asking.
Oh my.
Sorry.
Through these tech problems, the ironic thing is I hear what sounds like a typewriter.
Right.
That's,
I'm trying to end it, but it's
do you want us to log out and log back in?
no, this has nothing to do with Zoom. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Madam Manager, would you like to go over the budget with us and tell us first what are the things that you have put back in, taken out, an overview, please?
Let's do the announcement of the item number 1 on the agenda, the announcement of the proposed 2020 property rate of 3.6245 mils, which is 5.8% less than the rollback rate needed to fund expenses for the year beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021. You've received all the supporting documents. As this says, we are doing a 3.6245 mils, which was the same as last year. At the last meeting, we went over the budget. There were certain things that were identified by the council that I had cut that we were asked to put back in, and those included the newsletter, on all of the items relating to the newsletter, the full contract, the snow day, the movies on the green was increased back to 8, and also the tuition reimbursement. There were some things that were cut a little further to allow for some of these changes and for the further decrease in the millage, and the addition of the assistant town manager position was put in. Let's see, we cut. There was a duplication of $2,400 for closed captioning that was put in the council budget, and there's also some money put in the clerk's budget, so we took that out. The other numbers were refined a little more because we got some real quotes, estimates that made it closer. Like, for example, we went from 40K for the fuel pump replacement to 35. So we reduced it by 5,000. And we reduced the lighting from 35 to 30 because we also got some more firm numbers on those. Also identified positions that were vacant, had not been filled for a while, or did not need to be filled immediately, and we've eliminated those.
Can you
some
tell
of-
me what, can you tell me what those eliminations are and explain about the police, since I know that's one of the questions, that we're not getting rid of a police officer? So that,
No, we're not eliminating any positions in PD. We simply took a vacant, a previous lieutenant position that retired, that was $126,000, and we budgeted for an officer, which is $65,000. So it's not, we didn't lose a person, a position, we just budgeted less, gained a little bit of money because it was a higher ranking position.
okay,
So,
and then so in reality, the way that it looks like we're eliminating a position, but we are not. We are just reducing the salary cap for that position, correct?
correct.
Okay, and the maintenance, because I know that's also.
We took a couple of public works positions that hadn't been filled for a while, and we took them out. Also, the engineer and the CAPS asset inspector, that person had retired a while ago. It was never filled again. And we took 5 of the Parks and Rec positions that were part-time also out. So basically, we tried to do away with all the vacant positions that we could without affecting anyone's employment status, to be able to fund those items that were the council had asked to be put in.
Well, I have, before anybody else starts, the maintenance person, how much do we pay in overtime for maintenance? Because if we cut the position, are we paying more in overtime than it would cost us?
This Streets and Parkway position has been vacant for a while, like more than a year. So
No,
it's not.
but what I'm asking Marlene is differently. How much are we paying in overtime? Because we don't have, I think there was those positions filled, or you don't know right now.
I don't have the figures right now.
Okay.
I cut the overtime this year significantly
Okay.
from last year. So,
Yeah, because it was very high last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Who wants to go first in any, Josh? I'll pick on you since I can't see anybody.
Okay, well, I went through most of the things to Marlene. I just want to be clear on a few items. I saw obviously the closed caption is coming off because you have it listed on page 6 as well, because I want to make sure we're still ADA compliant. But who is, my question right now becomes, who is watching our grants? In other words, whose position right now is the person that's actually monitoring to make sure that we're not going to fall behind and miss a grant?
So we have a grant consultant, and I have been working with them with some assistance from finance and from other departments. Doug, when they ask for information, there's a lot of paperwork involved. So I've been working with the grants people that we have, Ryan and Joe, and we haven't lost any grants, or actually we've actually gotten, and we have actually applied for several new grants that we will find out whether we're going to be funded in November. We have not funded those yet.
Josh, can I interview? Who is supposed to be, not you, because you can't do everything. Whose position is it to help with grants?
In the past, it was the assistant town manager, JC, that handled that.
So wouldn't the assistant town manager continue to do that?
Yeah, most likely.
Most likely.
Okay.
Okay.
It's going to depend on how the new manager is going to reorganize, or how she's going to hire.
Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Along those same lines, Marlene, I just want to be clear, because I know, again, you and I discussed this earlier. There seems to have been a labeling issue, is what you explained to me with regard to the breakdown of the salaries. I'm going through grabbing the paper here because I've got 85 pages on this. But you've got, so for the, let me make sure I got the right one here because so many of these things. You told me that it's a labeling issue, that we're not essentially doing anything other than for both the assistant town manager and for finance director. Those are two paid positions. But that'll be manned. Let me just say that the person on for those things, those are two separate positions that are paid separately for individuals. It's not a double payment to anybody covering both spots. Correct? Yeah. So if this budget goes through, we're not double paying for anything. It's one of those two salaries.
Right, correct. You have an assistant manager budgeted at $116,000, and then you have a finance director budgeted at $140,000.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because you told me before there was a labeling error because one name was down for both, but it shouldn't be for both. It's one job.
Josh,
Okay.
not to interject, but you're hitting on something that, so under the salary additions, there are two line items: assistant town manager benefits and assistant town manager finance director. It totals over $40,000. Is that contractual, and where is that allocation?
That's just what the impact that goes into the general fund, because the positions are allocated in different funds. Obviously, we already have a finance officer, so there is no specific impact for benefits for her. She's already employed and she already receives benefits. The impact for benefits will be for the assistant manager. The salary is just the difference between the two that gets allocated to the general fund. So actually, there is an impact to the finance director, where the salary is actually lower from what she's currently making. So the 140 is less than what she's currently making.
And
But it'll be in line with, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
No, I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
So the 116 is unpaid at this point. It just says, it says that person's name on it, but really no one is getting the 116. What's being paid right now is the 140.
Yeah, it's a vacant position if the manager chooses to fill it in next year's budget.
Okay.
All right, Josh?
Okay. Yeah, just real quick, just confirm for me that you will change, we spoke about this. I know this is a funny one, but it's true. And I don't like it being on there because it somehow slipped through. On page 3 of the salary listings of all the things under the causeway, under bridge tenders, we have someone listed as the coin room counter.
Yes,
Considering we're on SunPass and there are no longer coins, I would prefer not to budget for a coin room counter. I have no problem if the person has other duties, if we give them a new title after the time period. So
it's all terminology. It is a public works maintenance worker basically position, so it should be changed.
Okay, because I just don't want to have to answer to anybody saying that we funded a coin room counter at this point in time.
Josh, they clean the horses. Come on, everybody knows that.
Okay, Josh?
Well, hold on. The only other things on there, I think you hit most of the stuff. I will say that I spoke with both you and Frank separately with regard to discussing with Miami Shores. I know we're budgeting here still with the hope that we are going to be able to negotiate some form of a credit, but there is a need obviously to budget it regardless. But other than that, I think we're hitting most everything.
Thank you.
I did reach out to him again, and so I'm waiting to hear back on what kind of credit we're going to receive for last year and not being able to use the splash pad portion of it.
Yeah, and just so you know, we're entitled contractually to any benefit that they offer to their own users. So if they issued a credit to a user to a %, we could certainly piggyback onto that.
Right, and we've already asked for that. So
Perfect. Thank you. Kelly, do you have any questions on the budget, please?
Not really. I went over this with Marlene to my satisfaction earlier. I just wanted to thank Marlene and the staff for finagling everything, getting it all squared away so that all of our requests were accommodated and that we're still balanced. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bob.
I've also reviewed, talked to Marlene about, most of the issues that I had weren't really many issues. It's clear. I appreciate the work that was put into it. I'm not looking to create a position, but over the years, I've had some issues with the so-called property management, and we don't have a so-called property manager. We have a, public works director, but, in recent days, I've gotten at least one call from a resident and my own information given to Marlene about inattention to just, garbage in different places and overgrown areas and, walking across the bridge between the two islands and it's overgrown. And, particularly if you're trying to socially distance and so forth, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And so, the one issue that I've had in the past is not having somebody designated to actually walk around the islands, from time to time and just look to see what's going on, because driving around doesn't do it. So I hope that we will, make use of an existing employee to have that responsibility. And I know that the new manager, I think, is listening as a participant, and that's a concern that I have, because I've gotten enough calls, even again this morning, about the same garbage being in the same place. So that's it. I mean, from the budget is fine. I'm pleased with the work that Marlene and Alyssa and staff have put into this, and I thank them for that.
Thank you. Okay, so Marlene, I guess, Doug, if you're listening, I think you need to take a little walk around the town.
Yeah.
Actually can see the garbage. I thank you. Okay, Elizabeth, I'm going to my two accountants now. Elizabeth?
I'm not technically an accountant. The only accountant that I'm aware of is Isaac.
Okay. All right, money lady.
So two things. I really, really appreciate staff working on the total budget. I know that, one of the things that was really materially important for me is to not be raising taxes. And so I appreciate the engagement that we put forth there. I'll kind of say the same thing that I said before, which I still think we have some space in the budget, which I'm fine with. I just would ask the other council members, if we have a touch more here and a touch less there, to just keep in mind that I think overall we're going to be in a good place. Like, we have some line items that we're budgeting a higher amount than what we already know we're going to be paying for it. So, I think we have a little bit of space in there. I just wanted to clarify, there was one item and I didn't get a good understanding of it. The tennis court lights. Was that just a reduction in the amount that we allocated to it, or did we pull that off?
No. It's $5,000 reduction. It still will get done next year.
Perfect. I really, really appreciate it. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay, Isaac.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think you guys kind of covered all the items that, that we talked about earlier, and I really don't have anything much to add.
Wow.
Elizabeth, Elizabeth is kind of an accountant, and she really drilled down in some of the numbers, and I only wish I was as popular as Elizabeth was, to get like 640 votes. So did a great job.
So
I'm good. So
okay. So the only thing that I want to give food for thought is that the police, I know that we did not take away a police officer. However, we have, and I don't know, Marlene, if you want to give the marching orders to hire somebody, but we are down 3 people. So we're down to 20 because 1 is on administrative leave and 2 are on light duty. So that leaves us with just 20 officers. And at one time we used to have 28 officers. So the only thing that I ask is that we don't wait to hire.
Yeah, just to clarify, I don't believe I ever remember having 28 officers. I think a full.
I do.
20.
I do too. Because I remember talking to Sean about it when I first became a council member, and he took me through the role and the number.
We had 28. We had 28 sworn when we had 3 shifts. When we shifted to Alpha Bravo, it got lowered. That's when.
A lot of years it's been, I think 23 officers. It might have not counted the chief on that one, so there might have been a position more or less. But a lot of years we had 23. But I'm sure the chief wouldn't mind hiring another officer.
Well, I'm just saying, I just want food for thought is that we're down 3 officers. And so I think 20 is a little, in my opinion, with everything that's going on, is a little low for my comfort, So I know it's been a freeze. I would really like, if we approve this budget, that we unfreeze the freezing of hiring a police officer. Is anybody in disagreement with me?
I don't think there's anybody in disagreement.
No.
Okay, that's all. Okay, so what's
Wait,
next, Marlene?
Wait. I didn't get a chance to talk yet.
Yeah, you
Oh,
forgot
I'm
your-
sorry, Jordan.
You forgot the guy that got 9 more votes than
All right,
then,
we're not
Elizabeth
playing who
there.
has the biggest stick here.
Yeah,
Wait,
thank you.
let's go.
All right, so I wish my analysis was more fuzzy and warm, but unfortunately it's not. I had a conversation with Marlene today. She answered most of my questions. So I mean, to the extent, let me just say that I would say that the memo that was written and sent to us, in my opinion, could have been better explained as far as how these cuts and additions. I mean, to be quite honest, just merely putting the line items without a description really kind of does a disservice, because then you kind of have to, all of us individually have to talk to the manager, have to wait to the meeting to listen. Because I had a lot of these questions coming into it, not understanding how they got to some of these numbers. That being said, just going into some of the things, specifically, I don't like to see this late as far as September, looking at the previous numbers and how mistakes were made, and now we're backtracking to try to fix it. For example, when you look at the pay worksheet, there was an individual that they put the wrong amount. They put the person kind of like they kind of like put a make-believe number, and now we had to put the real number. So the real number is almost $18,000. Again, it's like they should have put the number in the first time. So it shows as if we added it. You didn't really add anything. You have the same person. You just have a difference of $17,881, because in the previous analysis, you only had them making $777 for the whole year. I talked to Marlene about that. I didn't like the idea how they put the aggregate of Parks and Rec people. I didn't really understand in regards to the crossing guards how they got a 30% pay increase, and then we eliminated a position and then cut 10%. So now they're only getting a 10% increase in hours. Again, it's not an increase in pay, but an increase in hours, even though I didn't understand that, and that couldn't be answered. My big issues, and these are issues that one got solved, one didn't, but these are probably the most important issues to talk today about. One is that we still don't know where the money is for the SRO. That one of the years we were supposed to get paid, they're still looking into it.
Actually, I can answer that.
Yeah,
it's $70,300 roughly, because I finally did hear. I reached out again and finally did hear, and it is owed to us, and it will be coming.
Wow. To be honest, I'd like to think that we have an operation where we have enough people working at Town Hall that we'd notice if we were owed $70,000. That's a problem in my book. The second thing, and I know it got resolved, but I think it's very important for us as stewards of the public's money, because this is not our money, it's the public's money, that in my 10 years of being on this council and all of the years I've served in administrative roles, having done budgeting, being an assistant manager, being a director of a division, I have never seen ever someone or anyone in administration do what happened in the last meeting, where we said we weren't going to have pay raises. We said we weren't going to have increases. In the same conversation, the same breath, we were talking about the possibility of laying off or furloughing people, and yet it was snuck into the budget. And I have to say, for the record, as someone on this town council, that's horrible. And I have to mention that. And I think that we all should feel the same way, that that's not acceptable under any circumstances ever, should we be told that this is what's going to happen and then it gets snuck in. And the
Jordan,
fact
excuse
that
me.
I caught it.
Jordan,
Can you
excuse
tell
me.
me- Can
wait
you
one
tell
second.
me what was? Can you
Yeah.
tell me what was snuck in? Because I think
Right.
we
Yeah,
need
I
The
missed
HR
that.
director had a $10,000 pay raise. And,
What
and it
director?
was something that was known,
This was
and it
discussed
wasn't a
at the last
mistake.
meeting, and
Wait. Everybody,
Uh,
slow down. Jordan, tell me what first. Jordan, tell me, and then Marlene can answer. What was snuck in that we are
What was
missing?
snuck in was the HR director had a $10,000 pay increase put into the budget. And that was something that was done not by accident. It was done on purpose. And it's something that the administration knew, and they backtracked and said, we're going to take that out. You're right. That's a mistake. And it was taken out. And if you look at the first page of the memo, you can see HR manager, general fund impact, $3,400. That $3,400 is just from the general revenue. That pay increase was over 12% of her salary. And
So is it out? Is it out?
yes, it's out. But we as stewards, as members of this council, this is the public's money. I don't think anyone, when we said no one's getting a pay increase unless if you're contractually obligated through the PBA, that's what that means. And the fact that it was snuck in and it was done on purpose, it should be put on the record that it was done on purpose and it's wrong.
Okay, Jordan, I don't like your terminology.
I
You
want to
make-
say something because that was not done on purpose. That was a mistake, and it's not something that I snuck in. That was a plan that we had, and I've spoken to you outside of this, and I've explained this to many before this meeting and after the first budget workshop. That was not something that was snuck in. It wasn't divisive. It was a mistake. It was an error, and I apologized for it profusely. I'm not perfect. That error came in. And that was something that was put in way before we said we weren't going to have any raises. There were many.
I'm sorry, we haven't spoken. I haven't spoken to you since that meeting.
Jordan,
but-
can I please say something?
Jordan,
Eh?
let yes, Marlene,
First
Jordan,
of-
shush for a second.
I don't like that the tone or the implication of the words that you're using. One, I worked here for 20 years. I have integrity. I have honesty, and I will never take a dime from the residents of this town. And I think most of you know that. So that was something that was left in from a previous budget. And Melissa spoke to me. We spoke about it. She left it in as a mistake. I did not know until an hour before the meeting that was there. And then you brought it up and it was discussed. It was never a sneaking in, trying to get something over anyone. And definitely, my understanding was, and what I said to you, my word to you was, no one was getting a raise. And
Okay,
that
You
was,
did tell me that.
Okay,
But you also
okay,
told me
wait.
that you knew about it before the meeting and that you were told that it was put in the budget about an hour before.
and then you said you were going to bring it up, and you did bring it up. And we dealt with it, and we took it
Okay.
out.
So I would like to say something. First of all, I understand, Jordan, your frustration. I understand, Melissa, it was a mistake. But as far as Marlene goes, she has been put in a terrible position. We asked her to step up and do this job in the interim, and she is doing the very best that she can. And I think that, Jordan, we need to leave it at that. I don't think that Marlene, in all the years that I've known her, and we have had our differences, and but she definitely has integrity, and she definitely would never do anything to hurt this town because she loves this town. And if it was an honest mistake on Melissa's part, that's what we're here for, to double check and triple check to make sure that the budget is exactly what we wanted to represent our constituents. So I understand, Jordan, your frustration. I recognize it.
Stephanie, may I speak?
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to say that, in the past, I've called out a lot of people for a lot of things that I think were intentional. And in this case, Melissa is the one who has identified overpayments to our former town attorney who's under investigation right now. Melissa has brought up, you know, a lot of things she's found that she's corrected, and these are bad practices that we don't do anymore on her watch. So the fact that she made, you know, a numerical error for not a great amount, it's in a budget, it's not like it was a check. And the fact that it was visible. I mean, Jordan, you caught it. That's great. That's why we review these things. We found a typo, a numerical error, and we corrected it. So, you know, I don't like the characterization of someone who's such a fine financial officer. I mean, we're head and shoulders better than we were. With, you want to talk about some hidden stuff and some secrets, and I've brought a lot of it to light with former administration, and, you know, nobody's backed it up. Everyone talks about accountability, and now all of a sudden, you know, we're grilling her over this one thing when there were egregious mistakes made by the former administration and nothing is done about it. So, Melissa, I apologize for you having to take that tirade.
Take this to 5 milligrams.
I'm going to say one thing here. Jordan, listen, again, I will say thank you for finding it, but at the same time, you know, I think Marlene has demonstrated over years and years, you know, integrity beyond, you know, any question. And so if she's telling you it's unintentional, it's unintentional.
Well, let me ask you a question. You guys are so easy to say that it's unintentional, but yet there was a conversation that Marlene had. She knew about it. And I'm not saying that she did it because she's not the one that put in the budget, but it was, from my original conversation with Marlene, it was not a mistake. It was intentionally in the budget. And there was another conversation with staff members in regards to this item. And there was an explanation, the same thing, that the person deserved it. And that's why it was put in the budget. So I have two different people from the town that acknowledged that it was intentional. So you're telling me,
Jordan, I'll take you with.
I think that when I had the conversation, Jordan, so you know, the conversation went like this. The person who was supposed to get the raise, which is our HR person, it was told to her by our old town manager, who's no longer with us, okay, that he had obligated himself to that money. And so Melissa, in turn, kept it in the budget because it was obligated through JC to our HR person. And so there's the link. Okay. Now, should they have taken it out? Melissa says it was an oversight. Marlene knew it at the last minute, but it was an obligation that JC made to a person. And again, we can hash this out all we want, but at the end of the day, that's what we're here
I'm just
for.
mentioning it because it's the budget meeting.
I understand, but you understand what I'm saying? That's why you're here. You're here to catch those things. We are the steward of the ship. We are obligated to our constituents. Wouldn't you agree to that,
Absolutely,
Jordan?
100%.
Okay. Anything else, Jordan?
No, the only other thing is, you know, I didn't hear anything in regards to the, well, I'll mention that at the next meeting. That's not for the budget. Nope, that was it.
Thank you so much.
Stephanie,
Does
one
anybody
last thing. So
Absolutely.
Jordan, I would very much like to support you and your fervor in going after, you know, these wrongs that you see. And I think we could add a few tens of thousands of dollars to our coffers we could use on something by pursuing the intentional overpayment of our former town attorney, Mr. Sherman, that he admitted on the record where there's no doubt about it. So you go after that and I back you 100%. And let's hold them accountable.
And I think, and I agree with Kelly, if we overpaid somebody and we overpaid our town attorney, I think, Frank, as our attorney, I personally want you to go after that money. It's not even ours. It's our citizens' money.
So let me pipe on for 1 second, guys. The only thing is, look, I don't think there's any question that we would potentially have a claim here. The real issue is going to be collectability. And I think that's what we're going to have to talk to Frank about. I don't know if this is the place to do it right now, but collectability is going to be key, because I don't intend to spend a ton of town time and ton of town money only to find out there's nothing that we can ever get back.
If we're going to
we
do,
have to get in line, and that's the problem.
and if we're going to consider litigation, I'd rather talk about that in a closed session where we talk
Exactly.
about
And
strategy
so, you
and not
know,
not
Kelly,
at a public meeting at this point.
I agree. And Kelly, I'm going to call a closed session meeting to have just that discussion so that we can air this out and come to some conclusion.
That's great.
Okay?
Thank you.
This end, I just sent the third time forwarded an email on this subject to everyone. And if you want to have a closed meeting, what I would do is, since I have a conflict, I would certainly, if you want me to, obtain bids for and can then present those at a closed meeting. As Mr. Fuller said, there is a $4.1 million judgment for which we're behind. I can tell you Craig owes me more money than he owes the town, and I have not pursued my own because I don't like to be behind $4 million judgments generally. That it's my understanding from a conversation that it's not collectible, but I'm very happy to present bids or acquire bids and present bids to you at a closed meeting or an open meeting for that work. Unfortunately, I can't do it, and neither can John because of the conflict.
Okay. Frank, I don't think it's so much about, at least for me, it's not about the money. It's the principle of the point that I want to make sure that our citizens know that we are accountable for the money that we spent, and that if we overspent, that we will recognize it and try to go after it. I understand that we're probably not going to get the money, but I think it's more the principle of the point. That's
Or
for me.
Stephanie, how about whatever party is responsible? Who is responsible for that? Who signed off on that? Don't forget about all other parties.
You're right. Well, let's have that discussion in a closed session.
Absolutely.
I will have Alba send everybody an email and see what we can do, and we'll do it in a closed session so we can air this all out and come to some kind of conclusion, because what's good for the goose has to be good for the gander. You're right, Kelly, on that.
Can we put in there as well, though, that we have some other items that I think due to their nature, we can't really discuss outwardly, but also have to deal with collectability? Can we add that kind of line in there as well?
If you would, when Alba calls you or asks you, you can add that. I will call for the special meeting, and then all of you, if anybody who wants to add anything into that special meeting who has some concerns, please, let's do it then, and let's clear it so that we can
But just to be clear, the issue we have, one second, Frank, because I think you're going to have to answer this, though, is how do we have a special meeting with dealing with litigation if we don't have counsel available right now?
Well, right. And you don't have the actual litigation. So you'd have to authorize it really at an open meeting, because without having a case number, you could not have a closed shade meeting. You know, under Florida law, we have to have a case number.
Right.
So I would have to present that
without a case number.
So we don't have the ability, Frank, to discuss whether we want to bring an action against somebody, or the pros and cons, or the potential viability of the action, or defenses which somebody might raise. We have to do all that in a public meeting.
So I'm sorry, I just cut off Marlene.
You can have a strategy session just pending litigation, but you have to be very careful what you discuss, because not everything is allowed to be discussed. Only things that would relate to a lawsuit. But we'll send you. We'll look at that, Frank. We'll send the statutes and.
But it still leaves us without legal counsel at that meeting. That's the problem. So
Can
we'd have to actually technically have to have a meeting first to set up the essentially hiring another third party counsel so that we can have the meeting to talk about whether we move forward.
Well, why don't we wait until
Why
don't we wait until after we look at the legal services RFP? This might be a moot point.
We could do that.
Yeah, that's a better way to do it.
Okay, we can do that. Elizabeth, are you okay with that? Wait a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Alba, mark it in your calendar that after September 17th and whatever, then we'll visit this issue. Okay?
Well done.
Item number 2 is public comment. Madam Mayor, Albert, do you have anyone?
Yes, we do have Ms. Newhut.
Okay, Ms. Newha, please state your name and address for the record.
Francis Newhut, 1060 King Concourse. I'm going to start out by saying, since I'm a business owner, that basically in Bay Harbor Islands, where I will admit this is taxation without representation. And the reason I'm bringing this up, and you are making the decisions as council members, is that all of you, except for Jordan, are taking advantage of the homestead exemption. The businesses do not, and you all have businesses elsewhere. Only I have most of my businesses in Bay Harbor Islands. The thing that's hurting us tremendously, and that is Church by the Sea. And if you look at their real estate for this year, all of their properties, including 1045 95th Street, which wasn't part of the original mixed use on the Kane Concourse, which was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board, is paying zilch, zero. All this stuff they're taking, parking, right-of-ways, alleyways, everything you can imagine, impact fees, they are paying zero. And this is hurting the economy and it's hurting the whole town. The other thing I wanted to bring out is that nobody's giving us an answer on the Parks and Rec. And with this interlocal agreement, do we or do we not have an agreement with them, with the school? Because we are involved with basketball courts and a track and field. If they take this away from us, it will be our budget that will be replacing that. And the last issue is our safety issues. And I got a paper here that states they're not widening the sidewalk on either side. Both sides will be identical when the construction is completed. And I'm talking about over our bridges. You can't even walk on them with feeling safe. It's disgusting. And not only that, we had a death in Bal Harbor, and no one is even looking into our safety of our streets and our bridges. Also, I wanted to bring out about how you're eliminating the town engineer position, if I'm not mistaken. Well, previously, including with Church by the Sea, we've had a lot of, with the town planner. The town planner was very much involved with the lobbyist attorney of Church by the Sea. And he also, upstairs up there, was changing many of our ordinances, which I find suspicious. The other thing is, he also, town planner is not being questioned or being discussed about his position. And we have here with the elimination of the engineer, there have been a lot of mistakes with the elevations. And although our building officer is correcting them, there has to be a question with our town planner on whether or not we should be rehiring him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie, I want to say something.
One more thing. I want to just say that my tax assessment for 2018 was increased by 126%. And on this year, for 2019, 2020, 2021, it's increased 13%. So I don't know what you're talking about, that you have a low budget. I'm telling you, you're going to wipe out our business district and nobody cares. And Stephanie, you have businesses too, because you own properties that—
I don't own anything. My mother-in-law owns.
Okay.
It's not in my name.
Yes, okay. So you own, well, your mother-in-law and everybody else, but it affects all of us, all the rental properties in Bay Harbor, anything that brings money to this town, those hotels, everyone is affected by these increases.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you are not giving us our share of what's going on here. Thank you.
Stephanie, if I may, I have to say something. I shouldn't, but I'm going to, because we have the same conversation every single year. And I'm going to remind everybody out there, we do not set the valuation. The county sets the valuation. So Ms. Newhut, if you have a problem with the valuation that you have for your properties, Go ahead and
Thank-
challenge it with the property appraiser's office. You have every right to do so. Do it with the county. We do not set that valuation. And we say this to you every single year. With regard to, and let me tell you, with regard to the Church by the Sea property, yes, we are going to follow the law. That's what we do. We follow the law that talks about nonprofit organizations. If you really want that property to start getting taxed, feel free. It's America. Feel free to get together a group, put together enough money, buy the property from them, and we're happy to put it back on the tax roll. But until that time, we are going to follow the law.
Thank you for that, Josh.
Also keep in mind, the maximum taxable increase for commercial property is 10%, by the way. FYI.
Yeah, and just to dovetail on what Josh said, the Bay Harbor Islands portion of your property tax bill is probably less than 25%.
Marlene?
I don't know who that was.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan.
Mayor, should we go on to item number 3?
I think her Wi-Fi.
Thank you,
Frozen.
Isaac.
We
Okay,
don't have any public comment. Mayor.
is there anybody else? Alba?
No, that is it, Mayor.
Alba?
Yeah.
You don't have me? Okay,
We
thank
hear
you.
you.
Okay. Oh, good. Can you see me now?
Yes.
I keep moving.
Sorry,
I have to
consideration
move.
approval. First reading, providing for a millage rate of 3.6245, which is 5.8 less than the rollback rate for fiscal year 2020-2021. Proposed copy of the proposal ordinance. Albert, can you read the ordinance?
Yes,
Title?
an ordinance providing for a millage of 45, which is 5.84% less than the rollback rate for the town of Bay Harbor Islands for the current year AD 2020, providing for stability and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
It's a poll vote.
Oh, sorry, yeah. All right, poll vote. Alba?
Councilmember Yaffe,
Or
Councilmember Tricoche,
4.
Councilmember Salver,
4.
Councilmember Reed,
4.
Councilmember Leonard,
4.
Vice Mayor Fuller,
4.
Mayor Kruger,
4.
unanimous.
Okay. Marlene?
Consideration-
Go ahead.
First reading, making appropriations for the operation of the general fund, water fund, sewer fund, parking fund, waste, causeway fund, and storm fund. Alba?
An ordinance making appropriations for the general water, sewer, parking, solid waste, causeway, and water funds for the year beginning October 1st, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021, and the total sum of $22,644,648, providing for subability and providing for an effective date.
I'll move.
I'll second. Okay, I'm assuming it's a poll vote?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Alba?
Councilmember Leonard,
4.
Councilmember Reed,
4.
Councilmember Salver,
4.
Councilmember Tricoche,
4.
Councilmember Yaffe,
or
Vice Mayor Fuller,
4.
Mayor Bruder,
4.
unanimous.
Okay,
Item number 5 is announcement of the second budget public hearing, which is scheduled for Monday, September 14th, 2020. at 5
okay. Move to adjourn?
second.
We have one more meeting that we have to sign in separately, correct? All right?
That
Yes.
is correct.
Okay, see you in a minute.
Thank you.
Bye.